Okay, so yes, we were going to sit first of all. We are going to lie down after a little bit of sitting, but I just thought we would do a few things in sitting. So sitting with your legs outstretched in front of you, leaning back onto your hands, and just letting your legs roll a little bit. So you can, I always get confused with these, but you can roll your legs like windscreen wipers. So I think that's windscreen wipers from side to side. And if your feet are a bit wider, you can also roll your feet in and out, or out and in at the same time. So you can do a bit of both. You can do a bit of side to side with your feet, and you can do a bit of out and in. The feet don't have to be wide, but yeah, if you want to, you can. And what you could also do here is a bit of pointing your toes and pointing your heels. So pointing your toes away from you, stretching your heels away from you. So that's it. Heels, toes, heels, toes. And then from here, let's keep leaning onto the right hand. Oh, there's Emma joining us. And fold the left knee in towards you and hold around underneath your left knee with your left arm. Alternate left to right. Hello, Emma. We've only just started. We're going to be lying down in a moment. So, and then come to circling your ankle, your left ankle. So that feels quite nice. Circle it in one direction, circle it in the other. And then from here, what I'd like you to do is we're going to swap arms over. So you're going to bring your right hand and can you catch the outside of your left foot and then lean onto your left hand. So you've got the opposite hand on your foot, yeah? And that's it, just a bit of taking your leg from side to side. So you've now got the right hand on the outside of the left foot, and just let your legs swing a little bit to the right and to the left. And do keep leaning back. That's nice, that's very nice, good. Keep leaning back onto your left arm. Okay, let's let that leg go and just give the legs a little bit of a shake out, bounce the knees maybe. And then fold the right knee into your chest. And again, first of all, keep leaning on your left arm, bring your right arm under your round the back of your right thigh. And so then you're circling your right ankle in one direction, in the other, seeing how it feels, all these lovely sort of clicky, clunky movements maybe. And if you've been out walking today, I did manage to have a swim today, which was very, very nice. Okay, and then from here, swap your arms over. So take your left hand, hold the outside edge of your right foot, and then lean back onto your right arm. So now you can swing this leg a little bit from side to side. And just see how that feels. Keep it really easy. Okay, it's a little bit side to side. So one of the benefits of it being hot is that our bodies are maybe a little bit looser. Our muscles are perhaps a little bit more relaxed. But we also may feel a bit more tired. So yeah, we have to balance these things out. Okay, just once or twice more, and then let that leg lengthen out on the floor. And then what I would like you to do is cross your legs. So, I do mean cross your legs. So rather than half lotus or anything like that, cross one ankle in front of the other. So even if you don't normally sit like this, see how it is to cross one ankle in front of the other, and then do a bit of circling. That's it. So circling around. And again, you can go one way and you can go the other. And just see how this feels. So it's likely that we crossed our legs with the more comfortable leg in front to start with, but that might not be the case. So we're going to see how the other side feels. So you can now change the cross of your legs. Maybe lean back onto your hands. Bring the other leg in front now. And yeah, I'm just thinking, yes, this feels even worse. So I don't often sit with my legs crossed. I might sit in half lotus, or this one, Siddhasana. I don't often sit like this. It's not very comfortable. So do a little bit of circling. And then just very briefly, before we come to do some movements on our back, I'd like you to sit for a few cycles of breath. So it doesn't have to be cross-legged. It could be kneeling. It could be an easier cross-legged, and you could slide a cushion under you if you've got one to hand. You don't need to. And if you wanted to sit with your legs long, you could always put your back against the wall or a garden wall, Rachel. So just a comfortable sitting position for a minute or two. And we're just going to see how it feels to settle without breathing. So once you come into your sitting position, you might want to do a bit of rocking or swaying again. And just all these little movements help us to settle down. Resting your hands on your thighs, they could be palms down or palms up. I quite like palms down, it's up to you. We're going to have 3 big sighing breaths. So as you breathe in, you could let your shoulders come up a bit, and then as you exhale, let your shoulders drop down. And do that twice more. So breathe in, let the shoulders come up a bit, and then exhale, drop the shoulders down. So one more time, breathing in, dropping the shoulders. And then I would just like you to settle here, maybe close your eyes. What's it like to have maybe half a dozen or so quiet cycles of breath? So settling and sitting. How does it feel to let the breath come in? How does it feel to let the breath leave you? And what you can imagine, this is from Thich Nhat Hanh, is that your in-breath is like a cool drink of water. So I just always find this very refreshing when it's hot like this. So when your breath comes in, imagine it's like a beautiful, cool drink of water, cooling you down, easing your thirst. Let's just have 3 more cycles of breath here, just feeling our breath in sitting. So one last cycle of breath, feeling your breath coming in and filling you, feeling your breath leaving. And then from here, you're going to come to lie down. You'll probably be pleased to hear. So come lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And yeah, just settle yourselves down. So we're going to do a few familiar things on our backs. And so perhaps the first thing we're going to do is just to settle. And I've got a poem, I started to forget that, but I've written a poem in my book. It's just a short poem by Rumi. And again, it comes to this, picks up on this sort of theme of cool water, which I kept thinking about a lot today. So just letting yourself settle down onto your back. You could let your head roll a few times to the right and to the left. Just easing your neck as your head rolls from side to side. Settling the center of the back of your head on the floor. And it might be nice to rest your hands on the front of your body, or your arms can be by your sides. It's completely up to you. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. So we'll come back to this poem at the end of class. It's a little bit, what would I say? I mean, Rumi was a mystic, so it's a little bit mystic. And as usual, when we have a poem, just sort of let the words come to you and don't try to interpret them. Just, yeah, let them land with you. We are the mirror as well as the face in it. We are tasting the taste this minute of eternity. We are pain And what cures pain? Both. We are the sweet, cold water and the jar that pours. So come now to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Just, yeah, a little bit, yes, a little bit easy, comfortable, just letting your knees tilt from side to side. And see how that feels, how it feels around the pelvis, the lower back, into the hip joints. And just because it is a day when maybe our muscles are more relaxed, it doesn't mean that we're not going to experience sort of creakiness, aches and pains. You know, that's just how things are. And then settle your feet down. You could keep your knees bent, you could lengthen your legs out. We're going to do some of those rocking movements for the upper body. So if you're comfortable with your legs long, then lengthen them out. But if you prefer the knees bent, keep the knees bent. And then you're going to take your bring your arms into a big O shape. So your hands are up immediately over your chest and you're making an O shape with your arms. So if you're not sure, look at me. That's it, arms up. So interlink your fingers. So you made a big O shape as if you were holding a beach ball on your chest. And then keeping this circular shape circular, you're going to start to rock from side to side. So you're going to start to rock towards the back of your right shoulder and towards the back of your left shoulder. But keep your circle circular. So if you're going a very long way, and particularly if you find your elbows are touching the floor, is your circle still circular? So the more circular you can keep your circle, the softer this feels across the upper back. So we're rocking side to side across the upper back. The head can move with the arms, that's it. Keep the jaw nice and relaxed and soft. Rocking from side to side, and just keep going with this. If your arms get achy, of course, take them down. But sometimes with these, it's nice to carry on for a bit longer than we might think we can. As it's, especially this circular one, I find it's just really good for easing out all this tightness across the upper back between the shoulder blades. And yes, whenever you have had enough, do then bring your arms down to rest by your sides. But you can also carry on a couple more times. And letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So let the arms rest now if you haven't done so. Arms heavy by your sides or hands on your belly is fine. Feeling a breath come in, feeling a breath leave you. And if you lengthened out your legs, you're now going to bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor, and come back to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And see how this, that's very nice. And see how this feels now. So normally when we do these rocking movements in the upper back, when we come back to tilting our knees, it all feels a little bit easier. Doesn't necessarily mean we can go further, it just might all feel a bit more fluid. And then from tilting your knees, you're going to pause in the center, and as you exhale, fold your knees into your chest. And you can hold around the top of your knees, that's it, that's nice, and have a couple of breaths there. And from here, what will probably feel really nice on this hot day is to take your legs up towards the ceiling or the sky, some of you, and give them a shake out if you like. Or you might just want to be still. I don't know what feels good right now. Taking the legs up is cooling. And then when you've had enough of taking your legs up, bring your knees back in towards your chest. And you're going to wrap one arm around the back of your thighs, so holding around the back of your knees if you can, that's it, and bring the other arm out on the floor at shoulder height. So we're going to come into this floor twist, which it's a bit earlier on than I would normally do it, but let's see how it feels given the heat of the day. So you're going to, as you exhale, take your knees down in the opposite direction to the arm that's on the floor. Yeah. So use your arm that's wrapped around the back of your legs to help support your knees as they go down towards the floor. If your shoulder comes up, you would want to maybe either have your arm under your legs or a cushion under your legs if there's one to hand. Possibly not out in the garden, Rachel. So, and just have a few breaths in this twist. If it feels too much, of course, come out of it. But I was surprised. I find these quite challenging. And I did this earlier and I thought, this is really nice. We're giving the weight of the legs down towards the ground on one side, the weight of the shoulder down towards the ground on the other side. And yes, there's a variation you could try if you like. You could let your bottom knee come a little bit lower down on the floor, if it's on the floor. And you could then lengthen out your top leg, possibly catching hold of your toes or just catching your, that's it, straighten out your top leg. Yes, Rachel, you could rest your top leg on it. It looks like a wall or something in your garden. Yeah, you could, exactly, perfect. So, yeah, lengthen out the top leg. So this is quite a nice variation. You might feel quite a lot going on around the buttock of the top leg. I certainly did. So you can sort of breathe into that, keep settling through your shoulder, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Very nice. So if you're happy there and you want another breath or two, you can have another breath or two there. Otherwise, coming back to the center, maybe bending, that's it, bending your knee to come back to the center. Have a couple of breaths in the center and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So swapping your arms over. So the arm that was supporting the knees is now on the floor at shoulder height. The other arm that was on the floor is supporting your legs to come down to the floor on the other side of your body. And then settle. So before you do the variation where you lengthen out your top leg, just have a few breaths settling your shoulder on the ground, settling your legs down towards the other side, using a cushion if you need to, or supporting your legs with your arm. That's it, Emma, good. So coming over into the twist when you're ready. You too, Jan, good. Very nice. So having a few breaths there. And when and if you feel ready and you want to move on to that variation where you let your bottom knee, so the bottom leg stays bent, the knee comes lower down, and you lengthen out the top leg and you maybe catch your big toe or your ankle, yeah, or even your trouser leg. Good. And that leg comes a bit lower down, Maria, if it can do. So the lengthening out leg, that's it. It may not touch the floor. I couldn't quite see. It might be a strange angle I've got here. It just looked like your leg was up in the air, up in the sky. But you're, yeah. Yeah, so good. Good. Lovely. And have a few breaths there. And of course, whenever you're ready, you can come back onto your back. But if you're happy in your twist, have another few breaths there. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Particularly if you're outside, I don't know whether the air is starting to feel cooler. You can enjoy that feeling of the air on your skin. And also feeling the movement of the breath through your body. Good. So if you're still in the twist, you can have another breath or two, another couple of cycles of breath there if you like. But then whenever you're ready, come back to the center. And again, once more, fold your knees in towards your chest. And we're going to do another taking the legs up towards the sky or the ceiling. And I was going to get you to alternate between wide legs and then scissoring your legs, which might be quite nice. See how that feels. And what might seem less nice is from the scissoring your legs, you're going to then come into cow legs on your back, just so bending your knees and then holding around the top of your knees. So you're not trying to catch your ankles or anything in this. I would just hold around the top of your knees. Yeah, let your heels come down towards your bottom a bit more, Jan. That's it.
So just quite an easy cow leg. So you've crossed one leg over the other, and then you've bent your knees and you've folded your knees into your chest. And you're right there, Isabella. So this one on our backs, if you're wondering, I don't know if I'm talking about. So have a few breaths there, and then you're going to take your legs back up towards the ceiling, and you're going to swap the cross of your legs over. Sorry, suddenly my neighbours have gone outside making a load of noise. Okay, so on the side two of your easy cow legs, holding around, I'd hold around the top of your knees actually, Maria, instead. And think about the knees, yeah, hold around the knees and think about the knees folding in towards your chest as you exhale. That's it, that's nice. And then the lower back can really lengthen out. Good, so it's an easy cow legs. We may come into cow legs in sitting a bit later on. Depending how long everything takes. Good. And then when you've had enough in this side of cow legs, one last time, you could take your legs up to the ceiling, maybe just your sky, shake them out, or just whatever you want to do. And then you're going to bring your legs down, your feet down, lengthen your legs out on the floor, and see how it feels for a moment to lie with your legs long. And then we're going to do this stretchy one that I quite like at the moment, where you bring your arms up by the side of your head, you interlink your fingers, and then you turn your palms away from you. And you stretch into your heels and your hands, but you obviously make sure that you're not pulling your shoulders too much. And you just feel very long from your heels to your hands. Bit of stretch there. And then you let that go. And from here, we're going to roll onto one side. And I just want you to lie on your side with maybe your bottom arm under your head and your knees bent. And we're going to do a little side bending movement here and a little bit of breathing. So just roll onto one side, knees bent, head resting on your bottom arm or a cushion. If you've got a cushion to hand and you'd like to put a cushion under your head, and that's more comfy, then absolutely do that. That's it. So rest down. Yeah. So it's going to be relaxing, Rachel. So you could rest on your arm more like that's it. Yeah. So think about being quite restful on your side. Imagine if you were going to go to sleep, but you didn't have a pillow. That's sort of the organisation you want. And then we've done this little movement before where you lift your bottom ribs off the floor. So you imagine you're making a little bit of a tunnel. I always think about a tiny mouse going underneath it, but if you don't like mice, you don't want to think about that. So you're lifting your bottom ribs away from the floor and then letting them come back down again. And do that a few times. Lift the bottom ribs off the floor and then let them come back down again. So you're making this little sort of arch, little sort of, yeah, it's like a mini sort of tunnel under the side of your body. Ah. That's great, Maria. I can see the daylight under your side. So brilliant. Well done. And then you can do that once or twice more, and then just settle on your side for a few quiet breaths. So we just come back to this feeling of being and breathing. So resting, settled on our side, feeling our breath come in, feeling our breath leave us. How does it feel when you breathe in? How does it feel when you breathe out? Not doing anything to your breath. Just being with it, experiencing it. And then from here, as fluidly as possible, I'd like you to roll onto your back and then onto your other side and just settle yourself in the same way on your other side. So it's nice to sort of try and make this quite a sort of fluid movement. If possible, some of you might end up rolling off your mats if it's too fluid. And settle yourself on your second side. So again, with your arm under the side of your head, with your knees bent, and then come to that little movement of picking your bottom ribs. Oh yes, very nice. I can see yours moving very well this time, Rachel. So depending on the view I've got of you, lifting your bottom ribs off the floor, placing them back down again. Lifting the bottom ribs off the floor. Very nice, Jude. Placing them back down again. So do that a few times, lifting those bottom ribs off the floor as if you're making this little tunnel beneath your side. I find this movement again is very helpful for my lower back if it's feeling creaky. It's like tail wagging on us and on hands and knees. Good, that's it. Do this once or twice more, very nice. And then just settle for a few quiet breaths on this side. So it might be that you close your eyes. You feel the movement of your breath through your body. You feel the side of your body in contact with the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. In a moment, we're going to be coming onto hands and knees and doing some things there. And we just, anyway, yes, we're not doing anything too, let's see, I'll say we're not doing anything too active. We'll just see how we get on. So from your side, when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees. And when I was doing this earlier, I think it's that when we sort of stop. For me, I've had earlier, stop, lie down in this heat. When I came onto hands and knees, I thought I just needed quite a bit of time, maybe a little bit of circling of the shoulders over the hands, quite a bit of time to arrive here on hands and knees. So letting yourself settle, letting yourself arrive, you might do a little bit of rocking, very gentle, not very big movements, rocking forwards and back, or a little bit of circling. So you feel that you're fully on hands and knees. And then when you're ready, settling, coming to your cat movements and seeing how does it feel to round your back to the ceiling or the sky and to dip your spine down to the floor. And yeah, just repeating that a few times, rounding and dipping in cat. And it's up to you. We're going to do some dog pose here, a couple of dog poses. If you feel that you're ready to come into dog pose, you could do that now. You could do a bit more cat and then come into dog. You could do a bit of tail wagging. But when you feel ready, no rush to come into dog, just tucking the toes under, exhaling, rocking the hips back over the heels, picking the knees up off the floor. Seeing how your dog pose feels on this very warm evening. And so one of the benefits of this beautiful warm weather is our back of our legs might feel a bit less tight. Yeah, very nice. Big handprints. You're going to do a couple of dog poses in your own time. So in between these dogs, you could come down, you could do a bit more child, you could, no, a bit more cat, you could fold into child. That's nice, it's good, beautiful, lovely. Good. And just as much as possible, trying to be led by what your body feels, you know, but what your body, you feel like doing at the moment. So not pushing yourself, but also when you do come into dog pose, when you come into that second dog pose, enjoying that opportunity to feel that the body is opening out. The back of the legs are lengthening. We feel sort of the length of the back, wide across the back of the shoulders, the back of the waist, the lower back lengthens out a bit. All these things can be very nice. And from the second dog pose, you're going to come to somewhere where you can have a few quiet breaths. And that would, child pose is an obvious one. You could also come to kneeling. If neither of those appeal, the third option is to lie on your belly. So just choose out of those three, kneeling, child pose, or lying on your belly, whichever seems the most appealing.
And if none of those seem appealing, then yes, hopefully they will. You could choose something else. So yeah, let's have a look. So wherever you are having a few quiet breaths. Yes, I thought you might lie on your belly, Rachel. So very nice, beautiful. So again, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. How does it be to be here now? And I thought that if I come back to that, it just makes me think of that bit from the Rumi poem. We are tasting the taste this minute of eternity. So you're tasting the taste of this minute. And maybe that's also eternity. If it doesn't feel like eternity, whatever pose you're in. So from here, we're going to come and just be a teeny little bit more active. I want us to see what plank pose feels like today. I did at one point think, oh, shall we then do side plank? And swiftly thought no. But what you could do if you are feeling energetic is just to see how it feels to stay in your plank pose. I'm not going to time anyone for a minute, but yeah. So from hands and knees with your shoulders over your wrists, lengthening one leg back behind you and then the other. And just seeing how it feels to come into plank pose, your gaze is down, sort of just slightly ahead of your fingertips. What's it like? Really stretch the heels away from you. What's it like to stay there? You can obviously come down if you don't want to stay there. But yes, if you do feel that you want a little bit of energizing. And obviously then do come down when you've, you're very nice, do come down when you've had enough. Because we're going to do a little sequence involving plank pose. So maybe come down, sit in kneeling, up or down kneeling, and give your hands a little shake out. So yeah, just be somewhere or here where you can shake your hands out, maybe bring the backs of the wrists together. So we're doing a sequence which is going to be plank, dog, forward bend, squat, lying on your belly. So Rachel, you'll be pleased about that. So I'll talk you through it, of course, but that's the little sequence of movements we're going to do. So start off with your shoulders over your wrists. We're going to be coming back into plank pose, not for so long. Lengthening one leg back behind you, adding the second leg in. Having a few breaths here. So again, can you really use the legs as well as the arms in plank pose by stretching your heels back, really tucking your toes under. And then from here, you can exhale, send your pelvis up and back into dog. It's going to be quite a long dog, so then maybe walk your feet in a little bit. Settle in your dog pose, breathing, bending your knees. And then from this dog pose, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet. So you end up in a forward bend. All of the weight in your feet, letting your head go, letting your arms go. And then from here, we'll start to bend our knees. So we fold down into a squat. It's fine if your heels come up, or you can, yeah, I think in this way, it's fine if your heels come up. If you want to pop something under your heels, you can do so. Now, from your squat, this might be the slightly challenging bit. What's it like to then, can you roll forwards through the balls of your feet? Walk your hands forwards into the less challenging bit and lie down onto your belly and give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. Now I'm trying to think, did we actually do this one? Yeah, give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. If you rest your forehead on the back of your hands, one hand on top of the other, you can then do that little movement where as you exhale, you lift your head, trying to use the muscles in your upper back, and just do that a few times. So exhale, sinking down into your elbows and your forearms, lifting your head, very nice. Trying to feel that movement travels all the way into the upper back. Good. Yeah, so maybe just 3 or 4 times doing that. Lovely. Very nice. And then from there,
Just folding back into child pose for a breath or two. Or if you don't want to come into child pose, straight onto hands and knees. So yeah, just a breath or two in child might be quite nice, because we're going to do that little sequence again. So a breath or two in child pose. And then from child pose, we'll come back onto hands and knees. And we'll go through that whole little sequence one more time. So you've got your shoulders over your wrists. You're going to lengthen one leg back. You're going to add the other leg in. So we come into plank pose again. We could have a few breaths here. And then as you exhale, send your pelvis up and back into dog pose. It's quite a long dog. You could have a breath or two in this long dog, seeing how it feels, and then maybe walk the feet into a more comfortable length for dog pose. Bending your knees as much as you like. Exhaling, let the head go. And then from dog pose, walking your hands in towards your feet. So you end up in a forward bend, letting your head go, letting your arms go. Feel your weight in your heels and the rest of your footprints. And then starting to bend your knees. So you're folding down into a squat. Again, it's fine if your heels come up. Good. And then from your squat, you're going to be rolling through the balls of your feet, bringing your knees down onto the floor and then walking your hands forwards, lying down onto your belly, resting your forehead or the side of your head on the back of your hands. And I forgot to say last time, but hopefully you all did it, give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle once you are lying down on your belly, because that, yeah, just helps us settle down. A little bit of a wiggle of the pelvis. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. When you like, you can do those little lifting movements of your head. So either your starting point is either your forehead on the back of your hands, or you can slide your hands so they're sort of on the floor above your head, if you prefer. And again, that same feeling that we're trying to feel the muscles in the upper back are working as we lift the head. And it's helpful to do these movements on an out breath, I find. Just maybe once or twice more. And again, if you wanted to have a few quiet breaths, from here it's folding into child pose for a couple of quiet breaths. But if you're enjoying being on your belly, you could stay on your belly slightly longer if you prefer that to child. Some of you I know might prefer child pose. So either on your belly or in child pose, just returning to feeling your breath moving through your body. In both of these positions, we have the forehead resting down on the floor or the back of the hands, which can be quite soothing for the mind. Good. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. In a moment, we're going to do a couple of things from lunge, because again, lunge is one of those stretchy things that is a little bit easier. I was thinking today when I was doing some yoga and planning the class, I was thinking, oh, this is perfect splits weather. And then I thought, I'm not going to teach the splits on Zoom. So lunge is as close as we're going to get today. So come into lunge, doesn't matter which foot you have forward. So from hands and knees, come into lunge. Start off with your foot in between your hands. So this we're going to do two different variations of lunge. This is number one. It will make sense, I'm sure. So yeah, first of all, you've got your foot in between your hands. And then I would like you, once you've sort of settled there and had a few breaths, then I would like you to walk your foot out to the side so that your hands come onto the inside of your foot. And It's quite helpful here if you can have, be resting onto the flats of your hands so that you're supporting yourself through your arms a bit as well as through the pelvis. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Now, you can go to sort of one stage further from here, which would be to tuck your toes under in your back foot and let your back knee come off the ground. And again, then it's really good to have both hands on the floor because you're also then supporting yourself through your arms. So your arms are a bit like plank pose in this, plank pose arms. So if you take that back knee up, there's that lovely, lovely stretch here. Maybe a little bit easier in this hot weather. I don't know, it still feels quite challenging. Good. You can let that knee come back down. You could ease yourself back. So it might be quite nice before we come onto the other side is to sort of do this rocking back one where we let the back knee bend more and the front leg lengthens out. So easing out of lunge and then swapping sides. So bringing the other foot forwards. And again, first of all, organize yourself in lunge so your foot is between your hands. And just that settling. So we want to have our knee over our heel. It's fine if you're doing a bit of rocking forwards and back, but you all know this. And then you could walk your foot out to the side. So both hands come onto the inside of the foot. I'm going to come and have a look at you now. I'm not just trying to get out of doing this once. Hands on the inside of the foot. And then if you want to, tucking your back toe under, letting your back knee come off the ground. Lovely. So this just becomes a bit more of a stretch if you take that back knee off the ground. Really opening through the front of the groin and the front of the back leg thigh. Very nice. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you, and then let your knee come back down on the floor. And once more, you could ease out of your lunge. And then maybe for a moment, sit back in kneeling or in up kneeling and shake your hands out because you're going to do a dog pose and then we've got another lungy thing we're going to do. So give the hands a little shake out. And then when you're ready, maybe just a really sort of slow, mindful dog where we place our hands on the floor. The hands could be quite wide apart. That's really nice for the shoulders. Place the hands on the floor, tuck the toes under, rock the hips back, pick the knees up off the floor, come into sort of a quiet, hopefully a quiet dog, and just seeing how it feels. Very nice, good. Letting the head go. That's it, lovely. Really nice. You can bend one knee, you can bend both knees. I'm finally feeling a little bit of cool air coming through my windows, which is very nice. And whenever you're ready, you can come out from dog. And we're going to come now into lunge twist. So let's see. We turn towards our front, the front leg. So I'm going to put that leg forward so you can see me. It doesn't really matter which leg you have forwards because we'll do both sides. So in this one, and I might actually do the other one because you can see the hand. So you're going to bring one foot forwards and then one hand is going to stand on the floor next to that foot. So this is where, if it's hard to bring your hand flat on the floor, it might be useful to have a book or something underneath it. If you're outside and you don't have anything, you'll be fine, I'm sure. So the first thing we do here is we start to turn towards the front leg. So I will swap sides again, so I'm turning towards you. So we've got our hand standing on the floor and we're turning towards our front leg. The other hand's on the back of the pelvis. At this point, a bit like we did in the last lunge, you can, if you like, then tuck your toes under, let your back knee come off the ground. And then from here, I would reach forwards with my fingertips. So there's this long diagonal line from the fingertips through to the back heel. Just letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. This is, yes, it can be a little bit challenging. I don't want to stay there too long. And you can come down, you can untwist, you can ease back in the same way we did on the other side. Now I'm going to turn around, so again I'm going to twist towards you. So swap over, so you've got your other foot stepped forwards now. So you start off in a normal lunge, this hand, so the opposite hand to foot is going to stand on the floor. Maybe have our toes tucked under our back foot. We're turning first of all towards this front leg. Turning towards the front leg. And then with the toes tucked under, we let the back knee come off the ground if we want to do that. And then this top arm reaches in this sort of long diagonal line from the back heel through to the fingertips. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Feel this long lengthening throughout the whole of the body. Very nice. We don't want to stay there too long. You can undo that. You can ease out again. So this sort of rocking back, easing out. If you'd like to, I'll show you what I haven't here. If you'd like to do one more dog pose, might be quite nice to do a dog pose. You might want to give your hands a little shake out. And then, yes, this will be the last dog pose of the evening. So why not? Big handprints on the floor. And again, if you're feeling, this is just a suggestion, if depending how energetic you're feeling, if you fancied any of your one-legged dog poses, this would be the time to do them, obviously, as we're not going to be doing another dog pose. So, very nice. Yeah, that's it. So I'll leave that entirely up to you if you fancy any one-legged dog poses. And yeah, whatever you're doing, enjoying your dog. And from dog pose, we will sit down into kneeling. So I know that kneeling is not everyone's favourite. This is one thing I thought we would do this evening, which I don't teach that often, but because we've done all these lunges, because we're a little bit more stretchy this evening, I thought this would be an evening to do this. So I know some of you, actually, Maria, you really like this, so you'll be quite happy. So what I was thinking you could have a little go with is your camel pose. Now, if your fingertips don't come onto the ground easily, so I'm thinking about camel from here, where I want to do this a few times. So we're leaning back onto our fingertips. So you might find you need some books under your hands. Leaning onto the fingertips, sending the pelvis forwards. That's it. And if for you it's possible and okay, comfortable to bring your hands then onto your heels, you can do. But you might not want to do that. It might just be this coming here, coming back down again. So it's this big stretch through the front of the body, particularly through the front of the thighs. Yeah, it's not necessarily one to stay in a long time, but it can be. Yes, that's it. And Maria, probably for you, it's quite nice for your upper back, isn't it? So good. Good. Yes, if you're thinking, I've had more than enough of that, come onto hands and knees and lengthen each leg out behind you. So yes, we don't often do our camel pose, but quite a good one for the heat. Now we're going to do one more squat, and this squat we're going to stay in a little bit longer. So it might be that if you wanted something under your heels, just because I thought it'd quite nice for the lower back after camel to come into squat. So from hands and knees, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your knees, letting your knees come off the floor. And again, it might be you're happy here without your heels on the floor, and that's fine. Just, can we let the pelvis drop? You could take your knees wider apart and fold your body, fold your rib cage down in between your knees. So that might be a possibility for some of you. And just, yeah, if you can have a few breaths in your lunge, in your squat, letting your lower back lengthen out. Heavy pelvis. Heavy pelvis. Good. Very nice. So if you're quite enjoying your squat and you want to be there a bit longer, please stay there. If you're ready to come out, maybe bring your fingertips towards the floor behind you so you can lower yourself to sit down into cobbler pose. So lean back onto your arms. Might be nice for a moment after, I was just thinking after squatting to lengthen the legs out, and then we'll come into cobbler pose because we're going to do a few bent leg things. So give the legs a bit of a lengthen. A roll. So we're going to come to do a few things now around the sort of pelvis and hip joints, sitting type things. Gradually, how we do, making our way back into lying down. So bring your feet into cobbler pose. Let's see how that feels. So once you've brought your feet into cobbler pose, lots of you are quite comfy in this. You can walk your hands in a bit. And then we'll spend a bit longer, I think, in cobbler pose in a moment. What I'd like you to do from here is let one knee come on top of the other knee and slide our top leg back into pinwheel and do a little bit of circling here. Now, some of you might, in recent weeks, I think last couple of weeks, I've done this circling variation where you can give yourself a hug and let your head fall forwards. And this is quite nice for releasing the upper back. So this is an option you could choose not to do in pinwheel if you like that one. So letting the head hang wide across the upper back, circling. And we will come into our pinwheel forward bend in a moment. And this is a nice place to settle and just sort of be with our breathing again. So turning to face the thigh that's going out to the side and folding your body down over your leg, however is comfortable for you. And just, settling there with your breathing, feeling the breath flow in, feeling the breath flow out. Just see if you can allow yourself to be absorbed in your breathing, in the feeling of the breath moving through your body. Let's have a couple more cycles of breath in the pinwheel forward then. And slowly walking your hands in towards you. Now, this next thing, I don't teach that often, but I've sort of rediscovered it. I quite like it, but I'm not sure. It may not work for everyone, in which case you could come into pigeon instead. It's sort of a pigeon variation. What you're going to do is slide the back leg back a bit. So what you're trying to, and you're going to be catching your top of your foot. So we're sort of trying to come a bit more onto the top of the thigh, and it's this holding onto the foot, it's sort of this rocking. So and it's really, I suppose it's whether, that's nice. If you are able in this one to rock a little bit forwards and back, it can be quite helpful. That's it, sort of easing forwards and back. So if you're doing this and you're thinking, okay, I quite like this, you could stay with this. If you're thinking, okay, it's not really doing that much for me. So I find it, I rediscovered this. I used to do this loads in my own practice and find it really helpful in lots of ways. If it's not so helpful for you, you could then just decide to roll round into pigeon, or if you want to as well, lengthen your back leg out. So, and yes, I sort of rolled around rather than slid my leg out to the side. So you could do a bit of both of those. I'll leave that up to you. After all those lunges, hopefully pigeon feels reasonably easy.
Good. Just having a few breaths in pigeon pose. So you can, yeah, if you, any point when you're ready to come out of pigeon pose, just roll onto the sort of the hip of the front leg. Good. And let's let both legs lengthen out in front of us. Lean back onto the hands. So you might have thought we were going to go on into cow legs. We are going to do cow legs in a moment, but in a slightly different way. Let's come back into cobbler pose and see how that feels. Walk the hands in. You can do a little bit of rocking in cobbler pose. So let's just be in cobbler pose a little bit before we go on to the other side of pinwheels. A little bit of rocking. Yeah, this one where it's a benefit to have some padding on the bottom. So it makes it much more comfortable. A little bit of rocking. And then we can do this one when we're leaning. Yeah, so we lean to one side, we lean to the other, and then it can come into this rather nice sort of side bending movement. Yeah, lengthening out through the sides of the body. Good. Okay, yes, we can. I think we start to do these ones. It's like you don't know quite when to stop, or I always lose track of which side, which side I need to do again. So we're not there all evening. We'll come on into side 2 of pinwheel. So top knee, we're going on to the other side of pinwheel. Slide that leg back. Circling. Remember, if you want to do this variation, giving yourself a hug, letting your head hang forwards, wide across the upper back. Yeah. Bit of circling, and then again we will, whenever you're ready, come into the pinwheel forward bend and spend a bit of time there settling with our breathing. And perhaps again that's a benefit to this warm weather, that maybe it's easier to settle. It's easier to settle because we're a bit more floppy and tired perhaps. Then letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you, settling in your pinwheel forward bend. And it's very nice, Rachel, that's lovely. No, the circling's lovely, that looks really nice and beautiful. And let's see how we're doing. Yes, if you want to stay longer in your pinwheel forward bend, you can. From pinwheel, remember there was that sort of pigeon variation where we slid the back leg back. We're thinking about coming more towards being onto the, rolling sort of onto the top of the thigh and the knee, and then back holding the foot. So this is seeing what this is like. So it's this sort of rolling. What this is doing is it's really working into the hip joint of the bottom leg, this one here. The pelvis is sort of rolling around that hip joint. And again, you could also from here, you could do a bit more of this one, or you could also, it might be that you need to slide that leg back a little bit, but you could also roll round and lengthen out your back leg and come into pigeon pose if you like. Having a few breaths there. Again. Yeah, that's it. Just having a few breaths, settling in pigeon pose. Letting your breath come in, letting your breath leave you. It's all a little bit more stretchy. If it's not particularly comfortable and you want to come out, of course, that's fine. Roll onto your top leg hip. Lengthen your legs out and lean back onto your hands. So whenever, that's it. Whenever you want to come out of pigeon, you can do this. So I thought we'd come into cow legs, but in this, partly my Friday class, like coming into cow legs this way. And actually I found find it quite hard, but so from hands and knees, come on to hands and knees, because I think if I talk you into it so we don't get confused with lefts and rights, which is quite easy to do. So what you're going to do from here is keep your left knee on the floor, but bring it a bit more to the centre, and then lengthen your right leg out behind you. So I've got my right toes behind me, I've swung my left foot over to the right. And then I'm going to bring my right knee down onto the floor behind my left knee, yeah? So, and then my right foot swinging out to the left. So if you look back behind you, you can see a foot on either side, but it's your opposite foot. And then you do a bit of rocking on hands and knees here. So we've crossed our knees. We're rocking on hands and knees. Now this actually, that's it. This can be quite a lot for the hips at this point. But you can from here then rock all the way back, as long as your knees are happy with this, and sit down in between your heels into cow legs from this way. So it's quite, it takes you to quite a tight little cow legs, which you may or may not like it this way. Rachel, if you need to lengthen out one of your legs, the bottom leg on the inside, do so. Now, in your cow legs, have a little bit of a wiggle. Can you settle down? And then we're going to turn towards the top leg. If it's not comfortable, you can always lengthen out your bottom leg, yeah? And because I'd like you to be able to do a bit of a twist here, so if it's better to have that bottom leg long, you could certainly do that. Let a breath come in, and then we're going to turn towards the top leg. Yeah? See if you can work out which is the top leg. It's always a bit of a challenging cow. Very nice, good. And just see if you can have a few breaths in your cow legs twists. So these sitting twists are very helpful because they do really get our rib cage moving. Shoulders drop as much as possible. Whenever you've had enough, you can of course uncross your legs, lengthen your legs out in front of you. Yes, so sort of lean back onto your hands, uncross the legs, lengthen the legs out in front of you. Now, you'll be relieved to hear that I have remembered which side, which knee we need to have in front on hands and knees. I'm relieved. So from here, back on hands and knees, you're going to keep your right knee on the floor, move it towards the centre, lengthen the left leg out behind you. So your right foot is going to swing over to the left. Left knee comes onto the ground behind the right one. Swing the foot out to the side. So you look back, you've got a foot either side, a bit like bunny ears, I always think. And then a bit of rocking. So see how it feels. It might feel even more peculiar on side two. Even more of a stretch for the hips. And then we'll do the same movement. If it feels okay for your knees, you're going to rock all the way back. So the top knee comes up and you sit down in between your heels and you have a little wiggle. And at this point, if you're feeling really wobbly or uncomfortable, particularly the knees, lengthen out the bottom leg, if you like, because we're going to do that twist towards the top leg. So you should be turning the other way this time. And if you're not, something's gone a little bit awry. We drop the shoulders. That's it. Let the breath come in and out. Good. Really settle below the waist. Let the shoulders be soft. Good. Feeling that movement of the twist. So good for tightness between the shoulder blades and the spine. You can come back to the center, lean back onto your hands. Ease your legs out. Just give the legs a little roll now. So we've got one more one more active thing, which is going to take us down. You can guess what it is. It's going to take us into lying down. It's going to be a bit of our lovely rolling back. So So coming into this position, we'll start easily. And I know it doesn't end up easy, this one, but we can start easy. So sliding our hands from our feet
up to our knees, looking down at the floor and then our belly.
And just going forwards and back a few times. Very nice, good, lovely.
So just keep looking down. We're trying to feel that our back is rounded.
Our back is curving forwards.
We're looking down and looking
down. And then you can, whenever you want to,
try going a bit further. Keep your knees bent. So we're coming to a balance on the middle of our back.
So yeah, basically what we're trying to do is rock back,
keep our knees bent, balance on the middle of our back, and then look forwards to come up. So all the time you're looking down, you're looking at your belly where the work is going on, balancing on your back, look forwards to come up.
Just keep doing this a few more times.
Go back, look at your belly, look forwards to come up. Roll back, looking at your belly, forwards to come up.
Okay, this time we will try lengthening the legs out, I'm afraid. So we'll try this 3 times, rolling back, balancing on the middle of the back, lengthening the legs out. Can we have a couple of breaths here? Can we then come back up again, bending the knees?
So delightful. Very good for the abdominals, however, very good for the lower back. So a second time, balancing on the lower back. Thinking how you're going to be lying down in a minute. Look forwards, come up again.
And then one last time we'll do this. And from this one, you can lie down.
So rolling back, coming to balance on the middle of your back. Lengthening out those legs, seeing if it's possible to breathe. And then, yes, collapsing down.
Hurrah. Settling down.
And yeah, just settling and breathing and being for a moment. Yeah, so take a moment to just be, to arrive on your back, to maybe feel the breath. If you're really nice time to have your hands on your belly. The belly can be soft and relaxed after working. And then feeling the movement of your breath in your belly. That's quite a good idea to let your head roll a bit to the right and to the left. The neck can get a little bit stiff in that one. Good. Settling your head in the center in a comfortable place. Just feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leave you. We are going to do some more movements on our backs, mainly familiar things. That's nothing too challenging. So the first thing, if your legs are long, bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So feel the contact of your footprints on the floor. Feel the contact of your pelvis on the floor. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. See how it feels to come back to this movement. That's nice. Yes, and all of these things we're going to do on our backs now. Really let them be lazy and languid. Good. So just do this a couple more times and feel how the weight shifts side to side across the back of your pelvis. Because then you're going to stop tilting your knees. And you're going to start to tilt your pelvis up and down a little bit on the floor. So now you're tipping the weight from the top to the bottom of the pelvis, or rocking the weight from the top to the bottom of the pelvis. Yes, I've got a very good view of you again, Maria, and actually you as well, Rachel. So it doesn't matter if I don't have a good view of you, but that's it. So the pelvis tips away from the head and the pelvis tips towards your head. When the pelvis tips away from your head, you feel your lower back arches off the floor a bit more. When you tip your pelvis towards your head, that curve in your lower back flattens out a bit more. Keep it easy, keep it comfortable. This movement can be really therapeutic for the lower back. And whenever you're ready, you're going to take this movement. It would be the tipping of the pelvis, the tailbone off the floor, the bottom bit of the pelvis off the floor, into bridge pose. So you just go a bit further with it. You let the whole of the pelvis tilt off the floor, and then some of your spine come up and down. Maria, I wonder if you could do with your feet a little bit closer into you, perhaps. Yeah, that's it. Good. So in your own time, again, keeping it lazy, keeping it slow, 3 times rolling up and down into bridge pose. I mean, there's all the time in the world to feel your vertebrae picking up off the floor, placing them back down again. Very nice. Good. Okay, I think this is probably the 3rd bridge pose for most of you. So when you come back down after this bridge pose, just settle your pelvis on the floor. And then keep your right knee bent. Keep your right foot standing on the floor and lengthen your left leg out on the ground. So you're going to come into this one, which I think about as maybe like a half bridge pose, or the foot pressing one, where we start to press into the right foot and the pelvis lifts on the right side, that's it, and the pelvis tilts to the left. You all know this one well. And it might be that you coordinate that pressing into your right foot with your exhalation. So you press into your foot as you exhale, the pelvis lifts on the right, it tilts to the left. And then you stop pressing into the foot and the pelvis comes back down onto the floor. Then we press and then we don't press. It's quite soothing, this movement, or it can be. And then the next time your pelvis is back on the floor, you're going to give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So we can add in the arms now. So as you press into your right foot, roll across your upper back and reach your right fingers out on the floor, away from you. That's it, on the left side of you. So the right fingers sort of reach out on the floor towards the left. So you're rolling across, that's it, you're rolling onto the left side of your body. So the left shoulder comes up as the left pelvis side of the right side shoulder comes up as the right side of the pelvis comes up. You'll know what you're doing. I should just be quiet. And do this a few times, because this is such a lovely movement for releasing, giving ourselves a massage. Undoing at the end of a long, hot day. So once, twice more on this side. And then you can, uncross your arms. And you're going to fold your right knee into your chest. So still, keep that right knee bent. That's it. Fold the right knee into your chest. Just have a couple of breaths there with the knee folded in towards you. And then from here, we're going to come into another floor twist. So you want to keep your left hand supporting your knee, but bring your right arm down onto the floor at shoulder height. So again, we're thinking about the right shoulder staying settled on the floor, and we're going to start to rock the right knee over towards the left, letting the back of the pelvis come with it. Good. And you might want to rock in and out of this one. It's up to you, really, if you want to rock in or out, or just stay. Yes, it's quite nice. I can see some of you, you can, with your left hand, if you have your left elbow on the ground, you can almost make a little bit of a shelf for your left knee. Yeah, so that elbow makes a little bit of a shelf for your knee. Elbow on the ground, hand under the knee. So that right knee come all the way over towards the left, and then support it with your left hand. That's it. So the right shoulder is heavy on the floor, the right knee is coming over towards the left. You're supporting your knee with your hand. That's it. So you could stay there for a few breaths, Maria, if you wanted to at that point, yes. And depending, I mean, there is always the option. It might feel a little bit active at this point. You can always straighten out that top leg and catch your foot again if you wanted to. But yes, you might think, oh, nice. If you want to do that, it might be nice, but you don't have to. Stay in the twist for a few more breaths if you like. Otherwise, just roll back onto your back and have a few quiet breaths on your back. Maybe lengthening both legs out now. And we'll be doing all of that on the other side in a moment. So just, yeah, let yourself lie long. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Then when you're ready, you're going to bend your left knee, stand your left foot on the floor. So the right leg is long, the left foot is standing on the floor. So Maria, that's it, standing the foot on the foot on the floor, that's it. So we have to come back to that foot pressing on this side. So it'll be far too much to remember at this time of the day. So that's the first thing, left foot standing on the floor, pressing into your left foot, letting the left side of the pelvis come away from the ground. Letting your pelvis tilt to the right. Maybe coordinating this movement with your breathing, with your out breath. So that pressing happens as you exhale. As you stop pressing and your pelvis comes back onto the floor, maybe that's when you breathe in. These are just suggestions. Use them if they're helpful. If they're not, that's fine too. And then whenever you want to, you can add in the variation where you're giving yourself a hug, crossing your arms over your chest with your left arm on top this time. And then so now as your pelvis lifts on the left, your left shoulder comes away from the floor, you reach your left fingertips out on the floor, away from your right side. That's it. So your weight is rolling now onto the right side of your body, good, the right side of your back. That's nice, giving yourself a bit of a massage, just easing into some of the tensions of the day. So we're very lucky to have this beautiful weather, but when we have to work, or I was thinking today, homeschooling, trying to get children to work, it's quite challenging. So from here, whenever you're ready, you can rest onto your back, you can uncross your arms, you can fold that left knee into your chest. Yes, we've got the twist to do, I know. This is the last, virtually our last movement. So fold the knee in towards your chest, have a couple of breaths there. Then your left arm comes onto the floor at shoulder height. Your right arm, your right hand keeps supporting that knee, and you're rocking your knee across your body over towards the right. That's it. Keep the left shoulder heavy on the floor. And it's up to you. You can rock in and out of this one if you like, or you can rock there and stay. in the twist. And again, there's that option of lengthening out the top leg if you fancy doing something a little bit more stretchy or slightly more active. Up to you. Yeah, a few breaths there. Oh, it's quite funny. I've just seen Maria's cat appearing in her screen, and then my cat appeared through the window. So it's obviously cat time. One of my cats. So that's it. From there, roll onto your back, and then finally, yes, maybe both knees folded into the chest might be nice. A little bit of rocking with your knees folded into you. Even a little bit of happy baby if you wanted to do that. So I'll just leave this to you now. You can have your knees folded into your chest. Feet on the floor is really nice, Rachel. Yeah, if you want to do a little bit of happy baby, catching your feet, you can do. I think when I was doing this earlier, I just had my knees folded into my chest and was rocking side to side. Lovely. So well done, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to lie down. I'll carry on lying down. We're going to lie quietly. We're going to do a little bit of breathing. We're going to have the poem again. And we will finish at the very end, just coming back into sitting very briefly to see how it feels to sit. So settle down now. Yeah, however is comfortable, legs long, knees bent. Letting the weight of your body rest on the ground. If there's any little movements that are helpful, either letting the head ease from side or picking up your head in your hands and gently lengthening out the back of your neck. Anything that's going to help you be able to settle more deeply. Let's have 3 big sighing breaths to help you settle. So let the breath come in through your nostrils. Big exhale through the mouth, and do that 2 more times. And then just letting your body settle, letting your breathing settle. Maybe coming back to this notion of the inhalation as this being like a cool drink of water on a hot day. So giving us what we need, nourishing us, quenching our thirst. And when we exhale, the body can soften and settle. We can let go tension in the body. We can also let go of other more inner tensions. And I'll read you the poem once more. We are the mirror as well as the face in it. We are tasting the taste this minute of eternity. We are pain and what cures pain, both. We are the sweet, cold water and the jar that pours. Just let yourself carry on, lying quietly, feeling the movement of the breath in your body. Letting your body rest on the ground. In another minute or so, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. When we reach the silence at the end of the sound, you're going to make your way slowly into a comfortable sitting position. And we're just going to see how it feels to finish in a way how we started, with sitting and breathing quietly. Just, making yourself as comfortable as you can. You come into sitting, there's no rush. You might like to just do a little bit of circling or rocking or swaying. And so when I was practicing earlier and I ended up like we are in sitting at the end of my practice, I felt very sort of planted through my legs and pelvis. And that's I suppose in a way what we're looking for when we sit, is just that heavy below the waist feeling. So you can rest your hands palms up or palms down on your thighs. Maybe a couple of big sighing breaths. Let the shoulders drop. Let the elbows feel heavy. And just 4, we got 1 other minute. Let's just sit quietly, feeling our breath. Yeah. So you might like to fold forwards now. I'm going to unmute you. You may have to unmute yourselves. I can't unmute any of you. So if you want to unmute yourselves, you can do. Thank you. Stop the recording.